pleased to have a distinguished panel of witnesses before us today on this very important topic, and I now ask that our witnesses rise and please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give before the Committee on Homeland Security of the United States House of Representatives will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Let the record reflect the witnesses have answered in the affirmative. I'd now like to formally introduce our witnesses. I would now like to introduce Mr. Enes Freedom, a human rights activist, a former NBA star, and a Nobel Peace Prize nominee. Due to his outspoken views and his ongoing work on human rights abuses in China, Turkey, and other parts of the world, Mr. Freedom's career in the NBA was derailed by the league's financial decision to pander to the Chinese Communist Party so that it could continue to broadcast games in the PRC. Over the course of the last 10 years, Mr. Freedom has also been targeted numerous times by the Turkish government. He was nearly kidnapped in Sri Lanka. His family has been subjected to ongoing scrutiny and detention by the Turkish government, and he has received countless death threats and has had multiple Interpol red notices issued against him, which is a request to law enforcement around the world to locate and provisionally arrest a person pending extradition, surrender, or a related legal action. In addition to that harassment, the CCP has led an effort to silence him. Today, he'll share his experience of being a victim of transnational repression. The chair now recognizes Mr. Enes Freedom for his opening statement of 5 minutes.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Chairman Fluger, Ranking Member Magaziner, and members of the committee for giving me the opportunity to testify today on a very important issue of transnational repression. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's long arm has reached tens of thousands of Turkish citizens abroad, while Turkey has been experiencing a deepening human rights crisis since then alleged coup attempt in July 15, 2016. The Turkish government has been carrying out an extraordinary campaign of transnational repression against the critics overseen since the failed coup. The State Department 2022 country reports on human rights practices in Turkey reported that the Turkish government increasingly coordinated with other authoritarian states to forcibly transfer more than 100 Turkish nationals to Turkey since the 2016 coup, and more than 40 individuals were put through abductions, rendition, and forcible return. Turkey's campaign has mostly targeted people affiliated with the Gülen movement. The movement is a globally respected faith-based civil society inspired by Turkish cleric Fethullah Gülen, focusing on promoting interfaith dialogue and education throughout the world. The Fethullah Gülen has dedicated his life to interfaith and intercultural dialogue, community service, and providing access to quality education. He was the first influential Muslim public figure to condemn the 9/11 attacks publicly and express sympathy for the American people. His lifelong work on interfaith cooperation has earned him a recognition from the Christian and Jewish leaders in his homeland Turkey and a personal audience with the late Pope John Paul II. His efforts have also been praised by other global leaders who recognizes his vital role in fostering mutual understanding and peace and his leadership in humanitarian initiatives. In 2008, Mr. Gülen was ranked among the top 100 most influential person by Time Magazine and Foreign Policy and Prospect Magazine's joint poll of the top 100 public intellectuals. Many respected institutions awarded him with the Peace Awards, but Erdogan regime labeled him as a terrorist because Mr. Gülen was pro-democracy and in opposition to Erdogan's policies. The latest human rights report on Turkey by the U.S. Department of State sets out the violation by Turkey, including politically motivated retaliation against individuals located outside the country and kidnappings and the transfer without due process of alleged members of the Gülen movement. Turkish intelligence abducted Selahattin Gülen, who was a teacher in Kenya, and Orhan İnandı, who was the chairman of a successful school network in Kyrgyzstan. They were abducted and faced torture in prison, and they published İnandı's picture on Turkish media with a broken arm. Most recently, they abducted Koray Vural, who was a businessman in Tajikistan. The list goes on and on. As the reports say, more than 100 individuals abducted by the Turkish intelligence face torture in prison. Turkey is also pressuring other countries to close many successful schools, math and science academies. As the State Department reported on the Human Rights Country Report in 2022, the government applied bilateral pressure on other governments to secure their assistance with renditions without full due process and couched such requests as cooperation on countering terrorism. Some observers attributed to abrupt closure of a popular Gulen-affiliated school in Albania in September with pressure from the Turkish government. A letter sent to the Turkish government in 2022 by the responsible United Nations Special Rapporteur condemned the systemic practice of a state-sponsored extraterritorial abduction and forcible return of Turkish citizens from many countries. Between 2014 and 2023, Freedom House recorded 112 incidents of physical transnational repression against journalists perpetrated by 26 governments. Turkey is one of the leading ones. A Turkish journal interviewed by Freedom House experienced the closure of US bank accounts, likely due to empty terrorism accusations from the Turkish government. There are dozens of people who live in the US and their accounts are still closed. People whose name appear on the published list have faced various repercussions, including the freezing or closure of their accounts, negative credit scores, and various other personal and financial difficulties in Western countries. As the reports mentioned, after 2016, Erdogan's regime started to arrest everyone who was in opposition. In one day, more than 2 million people labeled as terrorists in Turkey. Then I began to call out human rights violations by President Erdogan in my home country. The Turkish government asked the US government to extradite me back to Turkey, cancel my passport, put my name on Interpol list, imprison my father, and set thousands of dollars bounty on my head. During a 2017 visit to Indonesia, I was nearly kidnapped by the local government officials with intentions to send me back to Turkey. With the help of a good local officer, I was able to get out of that country right away. Later that year, I hardly escaped from police officers at the Romanian airport that the Turkish government sent after me. They tried to arrest me and send me back to Turkey. Thankfully, US Senator Langford got involved and helped me fly back to the US. In 9 years, I received 12 arrest warrants and countless death threats. They tried to attack me in front of a mosque in Boston. They run social media campaigns against me so their fanatics could harass me or attack me when they see me. They pressure American universities, NGOs, and political groups to cancel their events with me. Sadly, all these are happening because of a so-called NATO ally. Instead of protecting and supporting democracy and human rights in the country or abroad, they became an enemy of the democracy and human rights. 7 years after having my Turkish citizenship revoked, I became an American citizen. While becoming a citizen, I changed my last name to Freedom and dedicated my whole life to defend freedom. I am very grateful to the members of the Congress for inviting me to here and allow me to share my story and the story of millions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Freedom.